With the desecration of our holiday weekend, there's no doubt we're not dealing with just evil people, but evil forces. Is it possible we can now see these forces through Cern's demonic ceremonies, exposing the unseen today and not forgetting to celebrate the victories amidst the chaos? This is Get Free with Kristi Leigh. We were endowed by our Lord Jesus Christ. Get free from propaganda, get free from censorship, get free with Kristi Leigh. All right, today we've got reaction from a detransitioner on how he feels about the hijacking of Easter. And after a court win, the FDA now has to stop its campaign against ivermectin. Hear from a brave doctor who led the charge. That's coming up. But first, some headlines. From Bull News, LHC revs up for dark matter showdown during solar eclipse 2024. Are we in the last days or what? Cern has decided to restart the world's most powerful particle collider on April 8th. They aim to unlock secrets of dark matter during total solar eclipse. The Cern machine recreates Big Bang conditions by smashing protons at near light speed. They're going to conduct experiments aimed at deciphering the enigma of dark matter. Whatever the intentions of these people are, one has to assume that they are not good or that they benefit humanity. Let's just have a look at Cern's demonic opening ceremony. These are some bizarre experiments happening in Switzerland. I mean, like, what the heck was that we just saw? I mean, this is science? Is this anything scientific about this? I mean, was that Baphomet we saw prancing around? I mean, come on. Some bizarre experiments indeed happening in Switzerland. Honestly, they shouldn't be ignored. Between the new Gotthard Tunnel and the Cern Particle Accelerator in Geneva, the fact that they feel the need to open these experimental facilities with these satanic opening ceremonies lets you know exactly who they serve. Some would argue that the Gotthard Tunnel opening ceremony was even more demonic than Cern's. Watch this and decide for yourself. This is actual footage, by the way. I don't know about y'all, but I've heard extremely people that have our best interests in mind when conducting these experiments that could impact the globe. And then to top off this bizarre chain of events, we have NASA. But just look at that. Another bull, like Baphomet character in there. I mean, again, these people are supposed to be like scientists, scientific, and then we're the ones mocked when we call them out for how bizarre it is and how demonic it looks. And then, like I said, to top it off, these bizarre chain of events, NASA's decided that they're going to shoot rockets into the eclipse's shadow in order to study the atmosphere. My goodness. In other news, this week on 60 Minutes, Scott Pelley and a team of producers continued their 5-year investigation into Havana syndrome, the phenomenon of mysterious brain injuries to U.S. national security officials and diplomats and their families, both abroad and at home. The 60-minute video claims that Russia is using invisible sci-fi energy weapons to give State Department staffers headaches and make them lazy so they can claim disability and not have to work.
If it is Russia, investigative reporter Christo Grozev believes he knows who's involved. In 2018, Grozev was the first to discover the existence of a top-secret Russian intelligence unit which goes by a number, 29155.
These are people who are trained to be versatile assassins and sabotage operators. They're trained in counter-surveillance, they're trained in explosives, they're trained in using poison and technology equipment to actually inflict pain or damage to the targets.
Grozev works with our collaborators on this report, a magazine called The Insider and Germany's Der Spiegel. He has a long track record uncovering Russian documents, and Grozev says he found one that may link 29155 to a directed energy weapon.
And when I saw it, I literally had tears in my eyes because it was spelling out what they had been doing.
It's a piece of accounting. An officer of 29155 received a bonus for work on, quote, potential capabilities of non-lethal acoustic weapons.
Which told us that this particular unit had been engaged with somewhere, somehow, empirical tests of a directed energy unit.
There it is.
There it is.
Written down in black and white.
It's the closest to a receipt you can have for this.
So who knows at this point? I mean, at least 60 Minutes mainstream is admitting that some of this technology can exist, but aren't we all sick of hearing Russia, Russia, Russia about everything and what they're trying to do? This wouldn't happen to be part of the propaganda campaign to accuse Russia of other things, come near election time. But the funny thing is 60 Minutes is such a joke. Wait till you see how they tried to hide their source. They said they disguised their source. Watch this.
Continue in a moment.
One of them is Carrie. We're disguising her and not using her last name because she's still an FBI agent working in counterintelligence. She says in 2021 she was home in Florida when she was hit by a crippling force.
And bam, inside my right ear, it was like a dentist drilling on steroids. That feeling when it gets too close to your eardrum, it's like that, times 10. It was like a high-pitched metallic drilling noise, and it knocked me forward at like a 45-degree angle this way.
She says she was by a window in her laundry.
Seriously? That's the disguise? I mean, certainly there wasn't any even prosthetics or anything. They just threw on a wig and did a nice little makeover, and that's their disguise. I mean, 60 Minutes is not doing themselves any justice when it comes to credibility. The State Department responded to this Havana syndrome story, and hear what they had to say.
On Havana still, does the State Department's Bureau of Intelligence and Research have confidence that in the U.S. intelligence community's assessment that it is unlikely that a foreign adversary is causing Havana syndrome?
So we do. It has been the broad conclusion of the intelligence community since March 2023 that it's unlikely a foreign adversary is responsible for these anomalous health incidents. It's something that the intelligence community has investigated extensively and continues to look at. We will look at the new information as it comes in and make assessments inside the State Department and with our intelligence community.
But you can't confirm whether INR agrees with that in this building?
No, I said we do. They do share that.
You do? Okay.
Share that assessment.
And
so basically they think the 60 Minutes story, though, is a bunch of baloney. So bravo again. 60 Minutes, always a pillar of great journalism. Now, I asked you on the premiere episode to help me balance out some of this crazy propaganda we have to cover, balance out some of the negativity. There's so much negativity. We don't want to be left constantly wringing our hands. And so we want to balance that out with some good news. And so I told you that you can send me your good news tips and I'll be happy to share them. And I did get one from Richard, and here's what he had to say. He said, he actually wrote a lot, but this is what I took from it. He said he wrote this when I was 21 after dying in a dream, protecting a friend's treasure, and he wanted us to use it. He says, it's a poem. I am never so strong as life is long. At times I do things so wrong, but to live and learn in life I earn. With my soul I can never burn. God is here and Jesus forgives. When I die, my soul still lives. So that is from Richard Archer Jenkins. Thank you for sending that poem in. It is a feel-good poem and definitely resonated with me. So thank you. Now you can contribute to the show. Send us your good news tips. It could be a funny video. It could be your favorite verse. It could be, hey, I saw this positive news story. Just anything to help us balance this out. And you can send that to klgetgoodnews@gmail.com. That's klgetgoodnews@gmail.com. All right, rest easy in that we are more than conquerors through Christ. Whatever is happening in our society or in the news, God has promised us that we are more than conquerors through Christ. And you can rest well using some MyPillow pillows. And in fact, there is a $25 extravaganza sale right now. You can get all sorts of things for just $25 a piece. You can get six set towel sets, 6-piece towel sets. You can get pillows, of course, all different things marked down to just $25, and pick 3 of your favorites. And that'll get you your shipping for free. You just use promo code KL. So you can do mypillow.com/KL, use promo code KL. You can also call 1-800-663-3706. Use promo code KL. Pick 3 of your favorite $25 extravaganza items and get the shipping for free with that promo code. All right, and we can balance out the bad news by celebrating some victories. That's what we're going to have in our next segment with our guest, Dr. Mary Bowden. That's after this.
Looks like you've been sleeping well.
Megan, he's back. The My Pillow guy.
And you're looking good.
Still feeling good.
Well, just when you thought it couldn't get any better, we've got the best pillow ever, My Pillow 2.0.
Wow, it's so soft and smooth.
It's cool to the touch. How did you do that?
Well, we took My Pillow's patented fill and combined it with this new technology that we didn't have back then when I invented My Pillow to bring you the best pillow in history, My Pillow 2.0. Just like all of you, I never imagined that My Pillow could get any better. That's why I haven't changed it in nearly 20 years. Then I heard about a revolutionary new technology, and I knew I had to bring it to you all. My Pillow 2.0 is truly the next generation of My Pillow.
The My Pillow 2.0 is cooler and softer than the last My Pillow. It is so comfortable to sleep on at night. I look forward to going to bed, and I wake up well rested in the morning.
Sleep is all about temperature and height. My Pillow 2.0's patented adjustable fill is going to give you the exact individual support you need from your head to your bed. And now here's where it gets even better. We've all experienced those temperature-related sleep interruptions where you get too hot, you toss and turn, you flip your pillow over to the cool side. Well, all that's gone with my brand new My Pillow 2.0 cooling fabric that's made with temperature-regulating thread.
The best sleep just got even better. Whether you have a MyPillow or not, you need to get the brand new MyPillow 2.0. Call or go to mypillow.com now. Use your promo code, and for a limited time when you buy one, you'll get a second one absolutely free.
You're sleeping even better.
And cooler, too.
And you're looking good.
Feeling good.
I knew you would.
Visit mypillow.com.
All right, as promised, I said, we're not just going to leave you wringing your hands, upset, angry. You know, we're always going to try and balance out the fear porn that you're getting elsewhere, all the bad news, and give you some good news. Take the moment to celebrate the victories that happen. So here's a victory. Let's show you what, is happening with the FDA. You can say it with me. No, FDA, ivermectin is not just for horses. And this is as a result, we can say that because it's a lawsuit win. Here to talk about the win is Dr. Mary Talley Bowden. She first hit the news when Houston Methodist Hospital suspended her hospital privileges for simply tweeting, "Vaccine mandates are wrong." After a big media push to smear her, they then reported her to the Texas Medical Board. She's been censored, defamed, and retaliated against just for trying to help her patients, for advocating with early treatment. So welcome, Dr. Bowden. Thank you so much for coming on Get Free with Kristi Leigh. How are you?
Great. Thanks for having me.
You bet. I noticed that even the hack job CNN from mainstream news had to concede that this lawsuit was essentially won, but they did it in the most smug way. They said FDA settles lawsuit over ivermectin content that doctors claimed harm to their practice. Claimed as one of those words that we were actually told not to use in journalism school because of the implications that it's almost implying that what the person is saying isn't true. So it's just doctors claimed harmed their practice. It's these subtle things that they do with headlines and how they write that is trying to, again, further poke the bear, if you will. I don't know if you read that article. Is that the sense you got?
Oh, yes. And of course, they didn't ask any of us for comment, right? Which is also, from what I understand, a no-no in journalism, that you're supposed to ask both sides to comment, but of course, nothing.
Of course. So it's just ridiculous and important to continue to point out how they try and take control and keep hold of the narrative. And speaking of that, I was seeing that the posts are still up. Are they still up even now?
I haven't checked today, but as of yesterday, they were still up. They have 9 more days, and I predict they'll wait. They think that the negative PR is going to die down, and then they're going to just quietly remove them and hope nobody will notice. But I think they're wrong on that. I think the longer they wait, actually, the worse it's going to get because people have noticed that it's taking them an awfully long time to take down a very simple couple of tweets.
Well, I feel like we shouldn't hold our breath because if that CNN article is indicative of the position that they're taking, it basically is saying in that article that the FDA is admitting no wrongdoing, and it was basically just easier for them to settle at this point. And so it's just like if I feel like they're just going to wait until the last minute because I mean they've said they don't think they did anything wrong in posting this content. But again, they didn't get the doctors' viewpoints on this. Why are you still so passionate about holding them accountable?
Well, they say, "Oh, well, this is no big deal," but this leaves a permanent stain on their credibility. And this is also the same agency that told you that ivermectin is for horses is the same agency that's telling you these COVID shots are safe and effective. So everybody needs to remember that. And yeah, it's I still got even Friday. I had a problem getting a pharmacist to dispense ivermectin for a patient I prescribed. And, we have 3 years of propaganda to reverse. So I intend on staying passionate and keeping this in the forefront of everybody's minds and reminding everybody, this agency really has lost a lot of credibility.
I think it's important also to make sure people know and can spread why there was this campaign against ivermectin. I was reading something earlier today about Dr. Pierre Corey breaking down the reasons why. What would you say are the main reasons why? I know off the top of my head, one of them was because it threatened their ability to have that emergency use authorization. What are the reasons why were they so adamant about taking a drug that has been around forever and it is so safe and acting like it was dangerous?
It was an orchestrated attack. It was very well planned out. It wasn't accidental. The timing of their PR campaign against ivermectin. So they launched that tweet on August 21st, 2021, and that tweet went viral. It was 24 million people viewed it in about a week. It was their most popular tweet ever. And shortly thereafter, they mandated the COVID shots. So Biden sent out the mandate on September 9th. Also around that time, they launched a multi-billion-dollar PR campaign to combat vaccine hesitancy. That was $11 billion. So it was all wrapped around the COVID shots. I mean, there's no other real reason because it is such a safe and inexpensive medication. It has nothing to do with patient safety or actually trying to help sick patients. It's really unbelievable.
And you've only gotten more and more passionate about holding not only the FDA accountable, but for the regime media that has been complicit in all of this, and for our supposed elected representatives to stay on this. And I mean, I was seeing some of your posts talking about how it's not good enough to just remove the mandates, but we need to go further than that. There it is, actually. That not only are the shots risky, but they're dangerous. Can you speak on what you've discovered about that in your own practice?
Right. Well, I've seen it firsthand. I've never seen anything like this in 20 plus years of practice. 7% of my new patients in the 2 years following the rollout of shots were seeing me for chronic, debilitating health problems directly related to these shots. Any other product would have been pulled off the market a long time ago. And it's just this shot was built on fraud, right? It was built on there's no transparency. The studies were flawed. The propaganda around them was fraudulent, and that's what a lot of Republicans or politicians in general will say. Well, we should let patients choose. we shouldn't interfere between a doctor and a patient. Well, that would be fine under a normal drug that was tested for 10 plus years for safety and didn't have all these issues arising in the first few years after the rollout. But this is a special circumstance, and this shot is being recommended for all babies 6 months and older. Still, it's hard to believe. And all these people in office are not up to date. If they're up to date, they've gotten 9 COVID shots at this point, and they're not giving them to their children. So why are they not speaking up? Because if they're not safe enough for them, and if they're not safe enough for their children, why are they safe enough for their constituents? So I'm just trying to hold people accountable, state the obvious, and expose the obvious, and get more people to speak up. But that list of politicians, it's growing. I mean, I've had 2 more people since I posted about it last night. So I'm optimistic that eventually we will get there.
I was curious, what has surprised you about trying to get these politicians to sign on, whether it be those that signed on immediately, and you were just surprised that they were right on board with this, or rather, on the other end of it, those that have not signed on yet. What surprised you in this process?
Well, there are a lot of politicians are very passionate about eliminating the mandates, and we were working side by side in Texas to eliminate those mandates. Which I get, at that time I was like, well, I'll just take what I can get. If we can get rid of the mandates, that's great. But now I think we're beyond that. It's very easy to support eliminating the mandates. The narrative has changed. People have realized now. Public sentiment is shifting. I mean, fewer than 10% of the public are still getting these COVID shots, but it's been hard to get these politicians to make that shift in their own heads. I just think it's a little bit cowardly, and it's just so easy, and it's a popular position now to eliminate mandates, but they're not willing to have the courage to speak up about something that might not be as popular. And also big pharma, a lot of these politicians are on the donations.
Well, that's
from
part
big
of
pharma.
it, Dr. Bowden, is because isn't part of that in signing is committing to not getting any money from any connections to big pharma? I mean, that's a big one, right?
Yeah, they don't have to make that pledge, but all of them really have. And yeah, that's why I started a 501c4 to try to raise money to support these candidates, because they're potentially looking at a big financial loss for their campaigns just by standing up to big pharma.
And being that both you and I are here in Texas, what's going on with AG Ken Paxton? Because I mean, he have a lawsuit of his own against Pfizer, and where has he been in support of what you're trying to do?
Yeah, so there are 2 big lawsuits that could bring the house of cards down. One is Ken Paxton's, and one is Brooke Jackson's. And Brooke Jackson is a whistleblower from Pfizer. She was a research assistant. She was monitoring a research facility and was seeing all sorts of things. And then she reported them. And it's just a battle. This legal system I had no idea before I started all this, like what a slog and what a grind and how hard it is to get justice. But the DOJ is trying to dismiss her case. So she's going to court on May 1st to try to keep the case alive. I don't know what's going on with Ken Paxton's case. I know it's similar. They're both trying to prove fraud. I think they're both civil cases, not criminal. But Ken Paxton, I haven't heard a lot from him personally, so I don't really know.
Okay. Well, what else is there that we should know, and what else can we do to support your efforts?
I think the most important thing we can do is just keep bugging your legislators. Especially Texas is shocking to me. I mean, we do have a lot from Texas on our list, but they are mostly precinct chairs and the lower level. We do not have a lot in the state legislature that are on board. I would have thought Chip Roy. I would have thought Ted Cruz. I would have thought Senator Lois Kolkhorst. I thought just some surprising people: Brian Harrison, Mays Middleton, all that are seemingly like-minded, but just won't take that extra step to protect their constituents from big pharma.
And another question I thought to ask you is there's been a lot that's changed in everyone's life, let's face it, since the pandemic. Everyone's life was changed in some dramatic way. For you and I, it was our careers. We're both, I think, still doing somewhat what we were doing before, but we've had to change how we do it because of the system. In my case, breaking free from the mainstream thrust me into I'll say, uncomfortable position of figuring out like podcasting and how that works. And it's been tough. It's been a tough road. But I'm grateful that it's forced me to learn new things and to get out of that system. And so for you, what's changed dramatically, and like, what are you grateful for in this process? Because I know it hasn't been easy.
Yeah, it's a blur. I mean, it's been wild. My practice has changed for good and for bad. I mean, I opened this practice 6 months before the pandemic started. I was a small, quiet ENT practice. And now, about half of my practice is COVID. Most ENTs, they operate primarily. They do sinus surgeries, tonsillectomies, ear tubes, and I still do those, but it's just the nature of my practice has shifted. And I lost a lot of patients because of my stance, but I gained some on the other hand. And then it's just, if I could just get the medical board things behind me, that's been going on for 2.5 years now. I think that would, lift a lot of the stress that's happening. And that's coming up. That's the end of May, end of April. So I'm looking forward to that. Whatever happens, just having that behind me, so I can just, move on and hopefully we don't have another pandemic just around the corner, but I'm ready if we do.
Well, I mean, actually, it's funny you mentioned that because earlier in the show, we talk about how now the mainstream media is like pushing this norovirus, that outbreak apparently. Have you seen any of that, or are they just wanting to push anything that pops up, you think?
Well, I haven't heard anything about norovirus. I do get these alerts, these health alerts from the health department, and they're always trying to drum up fear, measles. The latest one is H1N1, which was passed from a bird to a cow and now to a human. It was one case, and the guy had conjunctivitis. So it was not like, he died or, so I take those with a grain of salt. On the other hand, I feel like we didn't really realize COVID was an issue until it was too late. So I do dig into it when I see it. But so far, I'm not seeing anything serious or concerning.
Okay. Interesting. Well, I do want to encourage our viewers to follow you on X, because it's interesting how sometimes, even with large followings like you do have, you start to see your posts less and less. But you're such a warrior. I make sure I seek out and see what you're posting. So I want to encourage other people to follow and go to your page and keep that going, because you're a truth warrior and you need all the support you can get. So where again can people follow you on X?
It's MD Breathe with an E on the end. And I've seen a lot of fake accounts popping up, so it's a verified account.
Yeah, so make sure it's actually Dr. Bowden. All right. Well, thank you so much for coming on. Please make sure that you keep us updated with everything that you're fighting, and we so appreciate you holding the FDA's feet to their fire, one of the doctors to do that, because it is great to see some accountability, and I can't wait to see them take those posts down, right?
Yes. Well, thanks so much for having me, Kristi.
You bet. Thanks. Well, I want to take this opportunity to move on to. All right, so they have tried to inject the clot shot in everything, even our food. We can't even eat our food without wondering if they've poisoned our food. So if you want to make sure that the meat that you're getting
never was mRNA injected. You have to go to klbeef.com. You're going to want to stock up anyways on meat because of the rising prices. But again, never mRNA injected, so you don't have to worry about that. Go ahead and watch this. Let them eat bugs, they say, or lab-grown meat, or worse. No, we want our real beef. And we need to get free from the rising costs because the prices are skyrocketing. So you need to go to klbeef.com, stock up on all American beef from ranches in Texas, from Prepper All Naturals. We don't want the mystery meat. This meat is no mRNA jabs ever. It's freeze-dried, stored in Mylar bags with oxygen absorbers for maximum shelf life. We're talking 10 plus years without refrigeration. We're not talking jerky. We're talking about something you can just soak in water for 15 minutes, ready to eat. And these are premium cuts: New York strip, tenderloin, sirloin, chuck. Just use promo code KLB15 for 15% off your order. Now, it was so wild, I didn't even believe it at first. The president choosing Easter to proclaim a transgender visibility day? Seriously? I really didn't believe this at first. He says people who are confused about their gender are made in the image of God, if you notice from that tweet. Made in the image of God? What? It sounds like something Satan would say. Reminds me of that SNL skit where he's like, Satan? Do you know what I'm talking about, that SNL skit? It's funny. You should look it up. But anyways, yeah, it does sound like something Satan would say. Always making a mockery of God's word. He made them male and female, and God does not make mistakes. So at least Biden's exposing himself that he's definitely not a good little Catholic boy, right? The leftist loonies say it won't fall on Easter every year. What's the big deal? Okay, but Biden chose Easter, or Easter of this year, to announce and overshadow the resurrection day. And let's be honest, why did he do it? To provoke us, to provoke and try and bring out the ugly in Christians, because they, of course, want to push that Christians are violent, that narrative. So if we can get enough Christians throwing insults and name calling and some ugliness in those comments, then, oh, okay, we'll use that later. So don't fall into the trap. It's okay, of course, to be angry, but don't fall into the trap of being provoked and not making a good representation of who we as Christians are. Well, even some trans people did speak out against this. We had formerly the Kardashian. I'm like, the name's escaping me right now, but probably because he has a new name, right? What is it, Catherine? I don't know. You guys are probably all abuzz in the comments because I know the name's escaping me. But we had him, the Olympic guy. He came out against it. Snow Girl came out against it. We also had Blair White, who is a famous trans individual, come out and actually she or he, depending on how you want to refer to Blair White, actually said that this was so ridiculous it made her want to go to church. So there's that, and hopefully that is the case. Hopefully that does lead to some church attendance. But again, there's already a bazillion LGBTQ holidays already. Somebody else did point that out. I mean, my goodness, just look at that. This is from Andrew Beck. He says there are 145 LGBTQ plus holidays or holy days. And he aptly puts, how many will the United States government be recognizing? This is not a culture war, it is religious war. Absolutely. They have made this cult into a religion, and they've pitted it against Christianity. But God is using detransitioners to speak truth to the lie as well. Abel Garcia grew up in California as the son of migrant workers from Mexico. In his teens, he suffered from anxiety and depression and eventually was directed to a therapist. Now, this therapist convinced Abel that the reason for his depression was that he was born in the wrong body. He even tried to resist some of this, but the long story short is that it led to a long road of confusion and even medical problems that he's still dealing with today. So he's joining me now. Abel, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me on, Kristi.
You bet. Let's bring up your
your post. I saw this on Instagram, but you also posted it to Twitter. It says, since our government wants to support Trans Day of Visibility, let me remind everyone what I've lost. I was a shy kid who was confused by my own masculinity. At 19, I was raped and groomed into the trans cult. Thankful that God has saved me, but sadly my body has taken a toll from the drugs. So it is amazing to me how brave you are, such personal things that you share. But I mean, that's what I mean when you're bringing truth to the lie. Like, God has put you in this position to show the destruction of this ideology, and that it's real, that there's a person behind it. And that's you. And so for me, like I said, when I first heard of this, I didn't even think it was real. Did you know right away that this was a real post?
I actually had heard about it on Good Friday. He made a post about it, and I wasn't surprised. And I kind of forgot about it, that both of the days actually fell on the same day. So I wasn't surprised in the end.
Your story is so heartbreaking, and I mean, it's also heartbreaking that you did at one point like resist, but it was actually the therapist, someone you should have been able to trust, that kind of continued to push you in this direction.
Yes, it was my therapist.
My goodness. And at this time, you didn't. Do you feel like the therapist like created a wedge between you and your family, or where was your family at this point?
I was still with my family, but our relationship wasn't that good. I would say it was a combination of just my youth being a bit still rebellious against my parents, plus its therapist, creating a wedge and then growing me to dislike my family.
Yeah. And one thing that's also shocking about your story is that they made it so easy for you to make these life altering decisions. You said even your insurance paid for a lot of the medical care, which was really destructive, that you experienced from this point.
Yes, they covered everything, everything that was transgender healthcare related. They even approved me for vaginoplasty, even though I didn't ask for it. And that was less than 1 year into my medical and social transition.
And then, I mean, fast forward to when you decided you wanted to detransition and become, who God had created you to be. It was hard to get insurance to pay for the detransition?
Yes, that is correct. They fought me at every step to not cover anything, but in the end, they did agree to approve it.
Well, we're so thankful for that, but you're continuing to suffer, and we'll talk about that more in a moment. But what did you make of Dementia Joe reportedly saying that he had no idea he had issued that proclamation?
I don't believe him. We all know he's told by his handlers what to say and what to do, and
maybe he just
well,
wasn't
what's
prepared for the
better?
backlash.
I don't think he even cared.
You're probably right. I mean, there certainly was a lot of interesting comments under his post that I was reading. Some of them, I think, were too ugly. Probably what he wanted to get from the post, but there was others like this, a reminder of all of the shooters that we've seen that were trans or non-binary. I mean, you see there in the corner the Nashville shooter. They at one point, the mainstream Lion media referred to that trans individual shooter as a Christian shooter, and left out the part that it was a trans person purposely going out to try and shoot Christians. I mean, but we're seeing this time and time again. Do you think that we're seeing these shooters being trans or non-binary because it is a deeper mental issue that we're not acknowledging?
Unfortunately, it is a mental illness, and these people need proper help. But what they're getting from social media and those within their community is destructive, and they are being told that anyone who's Christian or doesn't support them is evil and hateful.
And it's like projection. It's actually like the other way around for the most part. I mean, that's the bullying that we're seeing is coming from this community. But I wanted to go over this article from Reuters. It seems like it's kind of making a good acknowledgement at first. If we can bring up the article, it says why detransitioners are crucial to the science of gender care. So at first you're thinking like, oh, they're gonna finally talk about this. But then if you actually read it, it talks about how it's dangerous to even talk about. Why it hasn't been talking about is because it's quote unquote so rare. These people are so evil. It says they actually published this article about how it's important to improve transgender treatments in order to stop people from quitting them. That's ultimately what they come down to. Instead of acknowledging the fact that people are being mutilated, that people are trying to reverse the damage to them, and how difficult that is, that what they really need is Jesus. They're sending out a warning to the medical community that no, they need to improve the treatments, the mutilation, in order to maintain their customer base. And they even talk about children in this. What do you think about that?
I think my face just gave my reaction. I'm honestly speechless. But I'm also not too surprised, as they do try to minimize the amount of detransitioners who are there. Some of the talking points they say is that we were never really trans, we don't really exist, or that we're only detransitioning because we don't have the financial or social support, which is all lies. I had a lot of social support. I didn't have to pay a penny out of pocket. The state of California taxpayers from California covered everything for me. So they're lying. So it's just to minimize the amount of people speaking out, like myself and some of my other colleagues, because they know the tide's finally changing.
Yeah, I mean, it's like they have to acknowledge it because even though they say it's so rare, it's like they have to acknowledge that there are some people like yourself that are warning against the life-altering damage that this can do. One of the things that's also fascinating about this article is you always hear them denying that minors are getting this done or that minors are receiving this care. But then in the same breath, they'll have an article like this, and it says in the article, quote, understanding the reasons some transgender people quit treatment is key to improving it, especially for the rising number of minors seeking to medically transition, experts say. How can you remind me how old you were when you? I mean, you were still young when you were seeking some help, but would this have been even more damaging if you had sought this out when you were younger?
So I was 18 when I started seeing a therapist, and I was 19 when I started the medical process. But I know a lot of my friends who've gone through this were minors. The youngest person I know is one of the more well-known detransitioners, Chloe Cole, who transitioned, I want to say at 13, double mastectomy at 15 in California. So.
Yeah, and they say that this doesn't happen, but obviously it does. And in fact, that they're saying in this article that they need to improve how all this is done. Do you think it needs to be improved or just dissolved altogether?
It needs to be dissolved. We shouldn't be harming children.
Yeah, and I mean, and this is a nightmare that hasn't gone away from you. What are you dealing with now? As a result of people taking advantage of someone who is hurting. I mean, that's what I look at it as, like someone took advantage of you were hurting and they had an agenda and they used you. I mean, and you're still suffering, right?
Yeah, so some of the issues I'm still dealing with, my eyesight's not as good as it used to. I have genital atrophy, and I'm probably sterilized just to all the drugs and all the I guess tucking that I did, and then unknown body tremors on my back.
Abel, I'm just blown away with how authentic and genuine you are, and just your bravery in speaking out about this. I mean, this cannot be easy to to have to like unload, this is everything that I did because I was hurting, and this is whatever everything I'm still dealing with. I mean, so it blows me away that that you're able to talk about this the way that you do. And you did say that this has brought you stronger in your Christian faith as well.
Yes, my faith has grown stronger over the last few years, especially after I realized my mistake and started the process to go back with God.
Well, I'm so grateful that God is using you. And I mean, that's very evident. And you know, you have been transformed, and I believe that He will continue to comfort and bring you some relief for what other people did to you and taking advantage of you. So, thank you so much for continuing to speak out about this, Abel. Is there any way that people can reach out to support you and let you know that they appreciate your courage as well?
Well, as of right now, the only way people can support me is just following me on Twitter and Instagram. Both of them are official Abel G. I don't have any other way to support me as of right now.
Well, we support you, and we will. I'm sure you will gain a lot of followers and a lot of kind words. So at least that's my hope from this. All right. Well, continue to keep us updated, Abel, and keep on fighting the good fight. Thank you.
Thank you.
You bet. Now, I did find this topic just so brazen, so out there, that I mean, I instantly wanted to talk to people that I've become friends with over the past few years with all the nonsense going on. And so another one that had come to mind to get his thoughts about this was someone who goes by the name of Lady Maggie USA. His name is Ryan Woods, and he is a fierce advocate for keeping kids away from the drag queen nonsense, the drag queen story hour. And he defends, you know, what he's done is just artistry. He makes it clear that he's a man, not a woman. And he warns that in today's society, they would have made him a female at a young age because he just happened to be interested in the girl things. But it's a great interview. He's always great to talk to. If you want to check it out, I put that on my Rumble last night. Easter Hijacked, and I think you'll enjoy it if you check that out. You can find it there on my Rumble. It's KLIM.news. All right, quick word about the economy. Tanking again, Dow dropping more than 450 points as Wall Street starts second quarter on a sour note. And I love this from the OG Ron Paul, his insights on everything. He pointed out that the Senate called out of control spending, calling it a national security threat, but they keep spending anyway. So the Senate actually passed a resolution saying that the over $34 trillion is a threat to national security, and then they approve spending more money. I mean, it's man, everything in this world seems like so made up at this point. But make sure you're protected from the out of control spending. You're going to want to do that with making sure you have some precious metals. Watch this. Get free with Kristi Leigh, and that includes getting free from tying up all your money in the banks we can no longer trust.
Greed works.
The market, which can face manipulation, and getting ahead of any central bank digital currency schemes that might be headed our way. In times of uncertainty, the wisdom of diversifying with gold and silver shines brighter than ever. Genesis Gold Group offers a path to invest in these precious metals, echoing the biblical principles of wisdom and preparation. So go to getklgold.com to get your free gold and silver guide and get started. That's getklgold.com. You know, I feel like we're all scarred from the pandemic. I mean, rightfully so. We're all waiting for what other virus they're going to either make up or intentionally put out there or hype up, because, you know, we do, after all, have an election coming up again. But yeah, again, they are always trying to use fear to bring in their ratings and to ultimately control us, right? Well, now schools are warning parents of sick children to stay home after an outbreak of norovirus. It's been tearing through the state. Symptoms of this virus are similar to a 24-hour stomach bug. Certainly nothing to lock your country down over, but you know, we locked it down before our what I have now, basically, sniffles and a cough. But the media, they have nothing better to do, nothing really else to talk about. So, of course, they make it seem dramatic as possible. Watch this.
First COVID, now another reason to wash your hands. Another virus is going around.
More people are getting sick with the norovirus stomach bug. It is highly contagious, but Stephanie Whitfield found hand sanitizer you've been using so much of this past year won't protect you from this virus.
Norovirus may sound familiar to you because there have been outbreaks reported over the years on cruise ships. Doctors say this virus tends to spread in Houston in the spring, so it's no surprise cases are rising right now.
Cases are rising. Break out your masks again. You might get a stomach bug for 24 hours. We can't have that, right? It's just ridiculous. It's like they're every opportunity they can to hype something up. And did you notice that they led with COVID? They had to tie COVID to this norovirus outbreak. But the one thing that you won't hear from the mainstream media is that a lot of these new viruses and diseases, ones that are actually worse than the stomach bug, they're a result of Biden's open border immigration policies. Florida's seen a recent surge in immigration, and as a result, new illnesses have come with it, norovirus being one of them. In an attempt to gaslight the public about this, NBC recently released a headline saying, no, immigrants don't bring disease. They actually help fight it. It's obvious that these people prefer to mock you rather than tell you the actual truth. And they always use that very smug, arrogant, like, no, the coronavirus epidemic will kill you. I mean, it's just like they always lead with the like, no, like you're stupid. Like we're not going to respect our audience. We're going to take the position of authority and tell you how dumb you are and make sure that we tell you and make sure we reaffirm that we're the arbiter of truth. I hate that they always use that stupid no, like to respond. But remember, this is why we must break free from the mainstream media narrative. And I will always tell you the truth, whether unpopular or not. So just keep that in mind, and always willing to break down what the news is doing to you, their propaganda tactics. Well, let's end with some scripture. We are in a spiritual battle, and you need to make sure you have your armor on. Here is the verse that I want to share. Finally, my brethren, be strong in the Lord and in the power of his might. Put on the whole armor of God, that you may be able to stand against the wiles of the devil. For we do not wrestle against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of darkness of this age, against spiritual hosts of wickedness in the heavenly places. Therefore, take up the whole armor of God, that you may be able to withstand in the evil day, and having done all, to stand. And that's from Ephesians 6, and you can go and read the rest of the armor that you can put on. But when it talks about not wrestling against people, but essentially the spiritual battle, I mean, just go back and watch those ceremonies for Cern and everything else, and that's a great visual representation of what we're up against, and should give you a lot of confidence. Well, don't miss Thursday's show. We're going to be talking to John Bound of InfoWars Bound Report. He always has fantastic research to share and tying things together. He's going to be talking the eclipse and how it relates biblically, as well as how our government is trying to use the eclipse there on the 8th. So don't miss Thursday. But thank you again for watching and supporting this brand new show. Don't forget to spread the word and share with your friends. Get free with Kristi Leigh, now on frankspeech.com.
Are people deceived? Have they had the wool pulled over their eyes? I feel like the perception that's put out there in the clips that are shown, obviously you're passionate.
I spent nearly 2 decades as a journalist in traditional media before recognizing the corporate control and breaking free. Now it's your time. Get free from propaganda, get free from censorship, get free from bureaucracy, get free from medical tyranny. Get free with Kristi Leigh, coming to Lindell TV at 9 p.m. Eastern every Tuesday and Thursday at frankspeech.com.